Chiefs fans need to brace themselves for this offseason. In a perfect world, all key pieces of this Super Bowl caliber team would return, but with limited money and contracts expiring, Kansas City is going to have to get creative. So it's time to talk through who is in and who is out. What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Happy Thursday. I'm Hayley Lewis, and this is Chiefs News Daily. More retirement news surrounding Travis Kelce has emerged, but fans are left to wonder if it's all just speculation. So let's talk through TK's future in Kansas City, some coaches who are already moving on, and a few players who have been added back in. First, give us a like and subscribe right here on the KCSN YouTube channel, and let's get this episode going. Could last Sunday's game have been Travis Kelce's last? Yesterday, we brought you the clip from the New Heights show where Travis himself explained he's going to be taking some time to really think through his career and if he should return to play in the 2025 season. Now, this morning, NFL insider James Palmer joined Kay Adams to discuss Kelce's future in Kansas City.
What does this mean if the Chiefs part ways with him? What does this look like for them?
Yeah, I contacted a couple people in the organization case Sunday morning, and I was just like, so I want to know about the speeches one. And they were like, well, Travis cried, but he cried last year. So I was trying to get a gauge on his speech to the team on Saturday night. And I was just like, what's your gut? And they were both like, my gut tells me this is it. But he hasn't said anything in either direction to anybody here. And we know he loves coming to work. We know he actually really enjoys being here in the building. But he mentioned that one part where he's like, I don't want to half-ass it at all. He practices as hard as anybody. And he doesn't feel like if he doesn't practice hard and practice that way, he's not giving everything to the team and everything to himself. So the people in the building believe he has lost a step. They still believe he can completely play, but there's so much on the other side as well. I think there's just a lot really on his shoulders and what's next. Do you keep playing because it's what you know? I mean, this is a massive decision, and it's a massive decision for the future of the organization. Like, Tyreek Hill leaving was one thing. This is a completely other thing for Patrick and Andy Reid.
So the end might be near for the incredible run that Kelce has had with the Chiefs. The Kansas City Star says that fans should really start bracing themselves for the possibility that Kelce might hang up the cleats. They say, quote, the end of an era is such a distinct possibility that it seems far more likely than not. Take it from Kelce, who on his New Heights podcast released Wednesday sounded much more like someone trying to find reasons to return, hoping to convince himself, than a man craving more. At one point, he said this, quote, if I do come back, it's going to be something that it's a wholehearted decision. I think I could play. It's just whether or not I'm motivated to. It's the best decision for me as a man, as a human, as a person to take on all that responsibility. Now, the Star continues to write that the toughest reality check might be this. After being revived by a bye week to enjoy a vintage postseason performance, 7 catches for 117 yards and a touchdown in the AFC divisional round game against Houston, Kelce had just 2 catches and 19 yards against Buffalo in the AFC Championship game and just 4 catches and 39 yards in the Super Bowl, meaning his last 2 games combined were less productive than any single one of his previous 23 playoff games. During this past regular season, Kelce had a career low of 97 catches for 823 yards on 8.5 yards a reception. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport had this to say about the crossroad Kelce is currently facing in regards to his comments on his podcast Wednesday.
This right here is what felt like Travis Kelce kind of wanted to say, and as you're gearing up for a Super Bowl, as you're trying to almost weirdly convince yourself that you're ready to roll, that you're in it, and all that, like, Travis Kelce said what needed to be said before the Super Bowl, but you're right. If you really listen, you talk to people who know him well, it always felt like he was uncertain about whether or not to return. Obviously, this season was not his best. The Super Bowl, was not his best. He is still someone, he's right, he could go out there and play. He has been one of the top tight ends, if not the top tight end in the NFL for the last decade. He goes to Pro Bowl every year. He has been an All-Pro. He is the go-to weapon for Patrick Mahomes. And now, as he gets into his mid-30s, it just doesn't seem like that anymore. And, you know, to me, like, listening to Travis Kelce right here, knowing that he is undecided about retirement, knowing that he may have played his last game, listening to him there, it sounded, Judy, like someone who believes that he's played his last game. I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but I'm just saying, listening to those words, it sounds like he has some real doubts whether or not he'll come back. And there's a lot of reasons I love this podcast, but that was about as raw as it gets, where he really is like, do I want to watch my maybe not as great self go out there and play, or is it time? Fascinating listen.
According to SpotRack, Kelce has 1 year, $17.25 million remaining on his contract with the Chiefs, including $11.5 million roster bonus due on March 14th and another $1 million bonus due at the start of training camp. Now, the deal carries a $2.5 million of dead cap, so retire/release, against a $19.8 million cap hit this season. All right, let's turn our focus to the coaching staff. As you all know, players aren't the only ones who could potentially leave the Chiefs, and we're already seeing a few staff changes. Now, Tom Pelissero shared this on Twitter. Now, the Ravens are hiring Donald DeLessio, their defensive backs coach, per source. DeLessio spent the last 4 seasons with the Chiefs. He's only 33 and a very bright young coach. Charles Goldman with A to Z Sports writes that DeLessio joined the Chiefs in 2021 as a defensive assistant before coaching the safeties in 2022. The safety position has been a strength for Kansas City's defense during his tenure. He's coached players like Justin Reed and Brian Cook, who together have combined 165 tackles and 4 interceptions during the 2024 season. Now, in response to this coaching change, the Chiefs expect to hire Jackson State linebackers coach Chris Orr. According to Matt Zenitz, as a player, Orr was an all Big Ten linebacker and a team captain at Wisconsin and posted 78 tackles and 11.5 sacks in 2019. Then he played in the NFL with the Panthers. Athlon Sports writes that Orr served as the linebackers coach for the Jackson State Tigers during the 2024 season. He has limited coaching experience, having made the move to the sideline after his playing career. The 27-year-old played for the Wisconsin Badgers from 2016 till 2019. Then, like we mentioned earlier, he went to the Carolina Panthers in 2020. He also had 2 stints in the USFL with the New Jersey Generals and the Birmingham Stallions. All right, more news and a bit of an old friend alert. Zenith shares that the Chiefs are expected to hire Matt House as a senior defensive assistant. A return to Kansas City for House, who won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs back in 2019. Now, he worked for the Jags last year after 2 seasons as LSU's defensive coordinator. Goldman writes a little bit more on this, saying House served as the linebackers coach for Kansas City from 2019 till 2021. Of course, he left to be the DC at LSU in the college ranks and then returned to the pros to be the Jacksonville Jaguars linebacker coach in 2024. All right, as for players, a couple transactions that we got to note. The Panthers have signed veteran kicker Matthew Wright to a future/reserve deal. Now, Wright kicked for 3 teams last season: San Francisco, Kansas City, Tennessee, and he made 15 of 16 field goals with a long of 50 yards. Now, Sports Illustrated writes that although the Chiefs have already had their starting kicker role filled, as Harrison Butker went 21 of 25 on field goals throughout the season, Wright was a fine replacement for Butker when he was sidelined. Missing 4 games, Wright stepped in for the injured Butker, nailing 8 of 9 field goals, both extra point tries, bouncing from team to team all last season. Wright still finished the year with 93% of a field goal conversion rate, and he knocked down 15 of 16 tries, of course, with his longest being 50 yards. One more transaction from the NFL Wire today: the Chiefs have signed tight end Anthony Fisker to a reserve/future deal. He was on that list of players that I named off yesterday who would hit free agency if not signed by the Chiefs to those future deals. Now, Charles Goldman writes that the Chiefs added Fisker to the practice squad back in early November. He was activated to the 53-man roster 3 times during the 2024 season, playing a total of 24 snaps on offense and 27 on special teams. His only statistic recorded was 1 tackle. He's also the 12th player that the Chiefs have now signed to reserve/future deals since Wednesday, with the previous 11 all having spent time on the practice squad last season. We all saw Kansas City's biggest weaknesses get exposed on national television this past Sunday. So how do they fix it and make sure that they are back in the running next season? Let's put it simply: fix the offensive line, bolster up the wide receiver room, and as well the cornerbacks room. I'm going to pull pieces from an article written by Sports Illustrated. This is Matthew Schmidt's words. Let's start with the obvious one, the offensive line. He says the issue here is that the Pro Bowl guard, Trey Smith, is slated to hit free agency, so Kansas City will have to retain him while also trying to repair other parts of the trenches. The Chiefs may want to consider taking a long, hard look at Los Angeles Rams left tackle Alaric Jackson, a 6'7" giant who is hitting the open market. Now, that being said, money could be an issue here, as Kansas City does not have the best financial situation going into the offseason. All right, let's talk about the wide receiver room next, with Marquise Brown hitting free agent market and Rashee Rice's status for the 2025 year up in the air. Kansas City really needs to come in big with some more weapons. Now, the Chiefs just can't keep getting by with past their prime veterans like Juju Smith-Schuster and DeAndre Hopkins, so options for Kansas City in free agency, such as Cleveland Browns speedster Elijah Moore, might be an option. Now, Andrew Hawkins on ESPN shared a little different fix for the wide receiver room, saying it might be time for a reunion.
They got to definitely revamp that offensive line, very similarly to they did after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost in the Super Bowl. When you look at a pass catcher perspective, if Travis Kelce is truly considering hanging him up, you're going to have a big void on your offensive playmaker side of the ball. And yes, they have this receiver by committee, and they've shown success with that. But it's only been because Travis Kelce was the #1 receiver. Now look, Mike T is here. Mike T is the person who gave me my first NFL workout ever.
Let's go.
Jeff Saturday is here. Jeff Saturday used to be on my wall as I was trying to make my way into the league because Phil Savage said he was one player he was wrong when I was hoping to be the second. So in the theme of reunions, Laura, I want to see the Kansas City Chiefs go get Tyreek Hill. That's a player that has said he is unhappy in Miami, and they could use a #1 pass catcher with Patrick Mahomes in the event Travis Kelce decides to call it up. You have Rashee Rice. You nailed him in the draft that way. You have Xavier Worthy, who even with his ridiculous speed was even better than we probably predicted early on. By putting Tyreek Hill, you have an anytime pass catcher that defenses cannot stop in a one-on-one situation, very similarly to Travis Kelce in his prime.
On to the secondary. The Chiefs traded away L'Jarius Sneed to the Tennessee Titans ahead of the 2024 season, and they lost the once dynamic duo between L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie in the backfield. Now, there will be a number of impressive corners available next month. Kansas City may not be able to afford a reunion with Charvarius Ward, but it might be able to get one of Los Angeles Chargers' 3 free agent corners in Christian Fulton, Asante Samuel Jr., or Elijah Molden. But in this way, there are definitely upgrades to be had over Jalen Watson. Now, obviously, the NFL draft is coming up in 2 months. It will also serve as a great way to help these position groups as well. Tomorrow, we're going to dive more into some NFL prospects the Chiefs should keep their eyes on, as the list of prospects invited to the NFL Combine were released today. So let us know in the comments below what you would address first, maybe some names that you would try to go out and get if you were general manager. All right, folks, that does it for another episode of Chiefs News Daily. We will be back tomorrow. In the meantime, we ask that you like and subscribe right here on the KCSN YouTube channel. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and we'll see you here on Friday.